Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for our latest Hot Topics webinar with Google. Today we have our SVP of Media, Nicole Jennings, and our primary lead from Google, Jamie Blomquist. And they're going to provide a strategic look back at Holiday 2016 and a look forward to Holiday 2017. We will have about 30 minutes of content, and then we'll open it up for Q&A to address any specific questions you might have. A couple of quick housekeeping items. If you have a question, please use the chat feature, and we will answer it towards the end of the session or follow up. Also, this event is being recorded, and we will distribute the recording and materials in the next couple of days. With that, we'll get started right away and turn it over to Nicole.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. All right. So from a PMX standpoint, thanks for joining today. We do want to share a little bit of top-line perspective on what we think is really going to impact the industry this year. So first, a quick look back at 2016. I feel like I never have benchmark numbers when I need them. I see them all the time. So we created a quick one-sheeter so that you guys could have this and access to this data of what happened last year just in terms of benchmarking yourself. So retail in general was up about 4% last year, which did beat forecast, which predicted to be up about 3.5%. So something to keep in mind, e-commerce, the range of impact last year in growth was pretty wide. Depending on the source we looked at, we saw increases of 11% in revenue up to 18%. So again, it's good to benchmark yourselves against the e-commerce industry as a whole. None of us can forget that a large part of the story last year in retail for holiday was about foot traffic, down almost 10% in December. And the big story about Black Friday last year was that we hit that $3 billion number on both Black Friday and Cyber Monday in terms of overall retail sales online. So definitely something to think about for this year, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the expectation is for 2017. Black Friday is where we're seeing a lot of growth. Our clients saw about 21% growth on Black Friday last year. Remember that traditionally that was a offline shopping day, and so we're still seeing a lot of opportunity for growth on Black Friday and those days really leading up to Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday has always been such a big day. 12% growth is still a really strong story for Cyber Monday, but remember, we've all been super focused on Cyber Monday for years, and funding it appropriately, right, and running our promotions, and so we don't expect to see that growth number continue to be a larger number because every year it's on a much larger base. And then when we think about paid search spend in particular on Black Friday, just a note on how in 2016 that spend was up about 16%, where again on Cyber Monday our spend really wasn't up that significantly because we've always been funding it so aggressively. So our teams here at PMX are really focused on those days before Cyber Monday and capturing all of the demand that is available in those days because they're growing so much every year. So, as Mary Beth said, you will have access to these slides. This is a quick look back at our client performance last year. And the way we use these charts is really to influence our budgeting strategy for paid search and other paid media. So we list here big picture e-commerce top days. So that ComScore blue, those bars really represent all of e-commerce. So it includes things like email, and the navy blue and pink represents what we saw in paid search in particular at PMX. And one of the real standout stories here is related to the mobile volume days in paid search. We all know that mobile has been a hot topic of the entire year, and what we can do with this data is make sure we have as much presence as possible in the bookended dates of that season. So you can see that mobile was super important at the beginning of the season and super important at the end of the season. So we want to make sure we're budgeting and planning and bidding accordingly to capture the demand that we know exists during those times. So now we're going to look ahead to 2017, look at some industry stats and some things that we're thinking about that we are confident are going to influence performance this year. So big picture, what's the industry saying? Really, they're saying a little bit that we're going to see some slower growth this year. This data is from Adobe. They expect overall retail, which is that top red bar, to slow a little bit and be in the 15 to 16% range. E-com in the 15 to 16% range. And then overall retail growth, which was at 4%, over 4% last year, to be really in the 2% range. So something to watch for sure. We did see new numbers actually come out yesterday from NRF that puts overall retail predictions at about that 4% again. So really a steady growth according to NRF. So we'll be interested to see who is more correct. We'd obviously like NRF to be the winner there. The big prediction that Adobe put out this year, which we find really interesting, is that Black Friday online may exceed Cyber Monday this year. So as a big retail nerd, I cannot wait to watch and see if that happens. It'll be really, really exciting for us to participate in that, and obviously we'll be funding the paid search programs accordingly. One thing to think about this year, and that we've been very focused on at PMX with our clients, and we'll continue to talk about in particular this month, is the research timeline versus purchasing timeline. So we all know that we have to be there and be present in the SERP in November and December to capture those conversions. But what we've been exploring last year and this year is how important is it for us to have that full funnel exposure earlier in the season in order to capture the shoppers when they're actually ready to convert. So for those of us who are so performance focused, that's a challenge, right? It's a challenge to fund something in October that's not going to pay off until November and December. But we have done a lot of testing there, and we have seen some real direct correlation between that upfront investment in October and linking those clicks to later conversions in November and December. So we want to encourage you to talk to your teams at PMX about that. And if you happen to find any extra budget, it is October. We know that sometimes budget falls from the sky that wasn't spent this year. And so if you have any of that budget, let's talk about a full funnel approach this month. And therefore, we will fuel that funnel for conversions in November and December. One thing I wanted to point out, and I don't intend for this to be my Debbie Downer slide, about store closures this year. The story here is really that when we think about Black Friday and offline shopping, the landscape looks different for many of your customers and your shoppers. They literally have less places to go offline. So there's the opportunity to capture those people in your own stores or online this year. And that's really the point of sharing the brands that have closed a lot of stores this year. You know, it's important to think about on Black Friday or even Thanksgiving night when your customers are ready to go shopping, what are their options and how does that look different year over year? One of the stats I did see is how there were more store closures this year than in 2008 when we were in a financial crisis. So that is interesting to think about. That is the Debbie Downer portion of the slide. But really the story here is what's different for your customers when they're making their choice over Black Friday weekend and where they're going to shop. And then on a final note, I just wanted to give a nod. PMX agency, while is primarily focused in retail, we do have a lot of nonprofit clients, and Giving Tuesday has been a big part of our holiday strategy with those clients. So Giving Tuesday is the day after Cyber Monday. And it's really been growing in brand recognition, if you will. So here's some stats about the amount of social media engagement Giving Tuesday got last year. And there's two things I wanted to point out about Giving Tuesday for you guys to be thinking about this year. One is, do you have a role there? So brands, sites from Jet.com to Carter's to even AOL and a whole host of brands put out philanthropic initiatives on Giving Tuesday last year. So is that something that's appropriate for your brand? It's definitely something to think about, forming a partnership with a nonprofit or having your own initiative. But the second point is on Giving Tuesday, because it is right after the day of Cyber Monday, just want to encourage our clients to think about their tone online, in particular in social media, and thinking about what the appropriate message is as Giving Tuesday becomes a bigger part of the holiday shopping season. We just want to encourage you to be very strategic and purposeful in the tone you put out on that day, in case there can be sort of any potential concern around speaking about promotions or exactly what you're promoting that day when there will be a large online social engagement in a philanthropic initiative. Hopefully that resonates with you guys and it's something you can think about. Nothing too huge to worry about, but just wanted our clients to be aware of that. With that, I'm going to pass it off to my buddy Jamie to talk a little bit deeper about what Google's thinking about this holiday season.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am here to share with you more of an executive view of what the PMX teams have been hearing from us over the last few weeks and even months. And it's this idea of reaching a non-line shopper. So non-line, in addition to sounding kind of cute, is an interesting way to describe evolving shopping behavior. So customers don't differentiate between online and offline. For them, there is no line when interacting with your brand. And this, of course, has put pressure on you as retailers to make the line between your online and offline teams or your online and offline investments essentially invisible, to give a customer a personalized, truly omni-channel experience. Every team needs to put the customer at the heart of their marketing strategies, and to do that, marketers can't be defining necessarily their strategy in silos or by channels. It's a non-line world. So with that intro, I'll talk today a little bit about reaching the non-line shopper during the holiday season and some of the insights that we can share from the Google Retail and Holiday teams. So again, first, a look back. Let's start with some of the big learnings that we took away from 2016. First is e-commerce drives sales growth last year. Cyber Monday momentum carried through the week, especially internationally. So what we find is in the U.S., the holiday season is a little bit more defined than what we see abroad. Two, a fairly old story, I hope for most people at this point, is mobile propels sales directly and indirectly. And I'll talk a little bit about this in a moment. Three, people are purchasing or open to purchasing from new retailers, especially in the holiday season, 50% more likely to consider another brand. So while the rest of the year you might have particular brands that you're drawn to, that you're loyal to, that loyalty sort of fades a little bit when we get to the holidays. So it's time to be, put on that competitive hat and make sure that you're there and that you're fighting for attention and that you're fighting for those sales throughout the holiday season. We'll talk a little bit about local intent and how that is maybe shifting this year. And to echo Nicole, the holiday season is starting earlier than ever. The holiday season shopping starts on November 1st for 50% of people. So November 1st, 50% of people are going to start their holiday shopping. So to Nicole's point, as we're thinking about budgeting and we're thinking about getting in front of people earlier and people are shopping and behaving intent versus buying, this is now really the time to have all of that buttoned up as soon as humanly possible. So this is probably a similar slide to folks who joined us last year. Shoppers today are more informed, they're more purposeful, and they're better prepared than ever. And we said the exact same thing on the webinar last year. It's more true than ever. This may look familiar to you as well. This illustrates a phenomenon that we observed in Google, and for a while we were scratching our heads and looking at this. What we were hearing from retailers is that between 2010 and 2015, we saw a dramatic decline in footsteps. And Nicole had sort of touched on this as well. But when we peeled back a little bit further, we saw that those store sales had also dramatically increased. So again, putting the data behind this is a more informed shopper, it's a more purposeful shopper. And what drives that is the digital influence. So a portion of this is, of course, e-commerce, but even in-store sales, this is influenced by digital. And so I know I am preaching to the choir if you are on this webinar, but the digital influence and making sure that we are touching that customer wherever he or she may be is ever more important. So looking now to 2017, here are some of the big themes that we're hoping to brace retailers for. So the first is customers are loyal to their needs, not brands, especially in the holiday season. So for example, if you are not where I need you when I need you, I am going to go elsewhere. Mass messages are meaningless, and I'm not talking about mass media necessarily, TV or billboards. Consumers really demand that you create personalized messages and offers. You know, I am more than a 30-something-year-old woman with whatever household income on a phone in New York City. I want and I demand of the retailers that I shop with that you recognize and speak to me differently if I've been in your store, if I've looked at specific products, that I have given you my email address, or that you know I'm shopping around. And finally, a more foundational marketing lesson, friction means failure. If you make it hard for a consumer to convert, they're out. If your site is slow, if they have to work to find a product, especially if they've already looked at that product, if it's a pain to check out, you're likely going to lose that customer. Competition is fierce, and it's going to come down to, are you making it as easy as possible for someone to ultimately convert? So we don't have time to cover all of these, and there are a number of different kinds of retailers on the line, so I'll touch on some of the more general themes. So this looks similar to what Nicole had presented. This is a study from MasterCard. Typically when we're talking about being at the right place at the right time in regards to holiday, we're talking about budgeting for the right seasonality. And as I mentioned earlier, holiday shopping starts really before Halloween. More than half day, they start November 1st. I am personally done before Thanksgiving. And retailers are launching their first holiday promotions that first week in November. So that early planning, that early execution really pays off. Online retail stores on Black Friday, looking at 2016, grew 22% year over year. Mobile sales were up 34% from 2015 on Cyber Monday. So we're seeing people start researching earlier and then ultimately start buying at a number of different points between November and December. But there are a couple not as intuitive dates that I want to put on your calendar as well. So the day after Christmas was the third largest day for sale-related searches, and 34% of people continued their holiday shopping after the holidays were over. So if you're wiping your hands clean of the holiday of December 26th, you're going to miss out on some of the largest sales days. And so we're encouraging you, keep the lights on. People are not done at Christmas. You know, consider people who have gotten gifts that they're maybe returning, or maybe they didn't get something that they wanted, their kids didn't get something that they wanted, and that they're going to continue to search. Most unsophisticated retailers are going to throw their hands up and be like, we're done. Stay in the game and take as much out of this season as you can. So the right place at the right time also means the right place on screens. Earlier this year, actually last quarter, we launched a new metric that you can see within AdWords called absolute top impression. It is the number of times that you are seen in sort of the base screen, if you will. The reason why it's important is that being prominent in a search result, as we all know at this point, means better performance. So 25% or more of shopping clicks on mobile and 20% or more on desktop go to the shopping ad in the most prominent position. So for PLAs, those are things that I can see on the carousel without scrolling. So the right place at the right time means, yes, you are there, but you are also right in front of me. And so, yes, plan your budgets accordingly, but also know where you can have the biggest impact. All right, double down on personal experiences. As a consumer, as a holiday shopper, even as a marketer, the focus on personalized experiences is what is giving me the most joy. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that Google is doing to help marketers deliver on the personalized experience that consumers are really demanding. Over the last few years, and I would say generally in the last 2 years in particular, Google has made incredible investments in what we call audience products. Those that allow you as a marketer to essentially deliver more meaningful messages to more specific audiences. And there's generally 3 that I would put on your radar. Remarketing, which could be anywhere across Google's 6 platforms, each with a billion-plus person reach. It could be customer match, which allows you to take your best marketing asset, your first-party data in the form of email addresses, mailing addresses, or phone numbers to create thoughtful, targetable audience lists. And similar audience, which is a product and a means to find more of your best customers, especially those who may not be familiar with your brand. Now, Google didn't just dream up these products out of nowhere. You know, they're based on what's best for customers, and it's a reaction to how customers are continuing to search. So 49% of smartphone users prefer to shop on sites and apps that recommend products based on what they've liked in the past. That is a personalized experience. If you know what I've bought in the past, you are more likely to recommend something that I want in the future. 42% expect you to notify them when a product that they're interested goes in sale. That is a very specific moment. If I have expressed interest in a product and all of a sudden it goes on sale and you tell me I can get it a little bit cheaper, you are more likely to purchase. We're all nodding because we probably all do that. And nearly all respondents in this survey said they intend to purchase after seeing an ad that is actually relevant for them, and this is really the crux of our business. As for benchmarks for the products I mentioned earlier, they're really delivering on those customer expectations. So for retailers using remarketing less for search ads, RLSA, essentially using site behavior to tailor ad messaging, we're seeing across the retail vertical 46% lower CPAs and a 30% higher click-through rate than non-audience lists. And this is very meaningful. I won't go through all of these, and you will receive the slides afterwards. But all the way to the right, which is the one I find most interesting, similar audiences. These are people who may not be familiar with your brand at all, but they look and behave a whole lot like the people you've told us are our best customers. And we see 30% lower CPA and a 17% higher click-through rate. And I think those are pretty compelling numbers for a customer acquisition strategy. And once they're your customers, you can continue building that relationship the whole year long through remarketing, email, or any other marketing channel of choice. And for each of these products, they have a place in the marketing funnel. Why I am talking to you about these now at holiday time is twofold. One, now is time to reap the rewards. Nicole earlier talked about intent and researching and action having slightly different times. I think this is a challenge for a lot of performance-driven marketers. These strategies are means to cut through the holiday clutter and to maintain a personalized experience when customers are being bombarded with other offers from every other direction from your competitors. And two, now is actually the time to start collecting. So if you have not been doing these things in the past, if you have not really taken a customer-centric approach, now is actually the time. 50% of consumers say they will buy a new brand during the holidays. So this is the time to capture those new customers and then nurture that loyalty throughout the rest of the year. And finally, friction means failure. And we know that friction can come from a whole lot of places. But since we're in October and not November, I'm going to talk about mobile. And if you thought you were going to get through a holiday without talking of mobile, this is not your year, and I don't expect you'll ever have one again. So with mobile at the forefront of holiday shopping behaviors, it's really no surprise to see that mobile shopping ad clicks from Cyber Monday are on the rise too. We saw this reflected in our own search data. More than half of shopping-related searches happen on a mobile versus a desktop. And while mobile searches were rising across the board, we saw consumers especially become comfortable searching for home and garden in particular, so that's up 30% year over year in Q4, and toys and games, up 25% year over year. Further, the conversion rates on mobile devices have increased 14%. So yes, mobile is a shopping device, but more and more it's becoming the buying device as well. this is the big area I want to focus on. The area of friction for mobile, for the most part, is mobile speed. And over the last year, we've made some pretty big investments with PMX and its clients. We've hosted trainings and hackathons. We've ran audits. We've held one-on-one consultations to specifically make your sites faster. Half of users will leave if a site takes more than 3 seconds to load. 3 seconds is extremely fast. And every second after that really does count. For each second faster a site loads, we see up to a 27% increase in conversion rate. And I have to say, I am not a developer. Most of you are probably not developers. This is not wonky stuff. Like, we're talking about not loading enormous images. We're talking about not loading stuff on mobile that isn't visible. Cleaning up basic JavaScript, retired tags. These are easy, quick things, and the window is still open for you to polish off some of these things before the holiday season, so the traffic that you are investing to send to your site can actually convert.
Yeah, Jamie, this is Nicole. I wanted to chime in there, and I'm so glad you're talking about mobile speed. So Google has been super focused on mobile speed for really over the past year. And what I've noticed at some of the Google events during Ad Week this year, they're not dropping that conversation. So I just want to encourage those of you attending the webinar to take a step back and think about that again. It's something that we've probably asked you to think about a lot over the past year as well. But to Jamie's point, there is still time to influence your mobile site speed this year. If you are at code freeze, we're not talking about undoing code freeze. If you have major development projects that are going on, we don't have to disrupt that process. There are some really small things that can be done related to images and loading videos that you're planning on executing on your mobile site this year that we can help you do in a way that will not slow down your mobile site or hopefully make it quicker. And we have seen direct increases in conversion rates the day within 24 hours of executing some of those very small changes on our clients' mobile sites. So I really want to encourage you guys, even though it's October, to not say, oh, we missed the season, there's nothing we can do. Talk to your teams at PMX. We can, our paid search and SEO teams are really up to speed on how to use Google's tools to evaluate the mobile speed and also partner with you in making changes to your mobile site. Again, small changes that can make a big impact, and we just can't stress it enough because we continue to see mobile conversion rates increase, and that's good, but if we can improve that page load time by a second and have that much of a bigger increase in mobile conversion rates this year, we're going to have a win together in the holiday season. So when Google doesn't stop talking about something, we don't either. So thank you, Jamie, for bringing it up, and thanks, you guys, for hearing me out on keeping this top of mind.
Of course. And lastly, I wanted to just highlight a couple other more sets. These also have to do somewhat with friction. These are things that sort of surprised me a little, and these are things I look at all day, so when something surprises me, you know, it's something interesting. Three sort of stats I wanted to put on your radar as potentially budding changes in how people are using search or using online for shopping. The first one is local searches on mobile are growing at 50%. These are the near me searches. Those are actually growing 50% faster than mobile searches overall. So if you have a store, or better yet, if you're taking advantage of local inventory ads, this is maybe something to keep on your radar, the very personalized, the very local experience. The second one, 81% of shoppers checked whether a product was in stock before heading to the store to buy. 81 is a very big number. I see it in my own behavior. People are not going to go out of their way, especially on a day like Black Friday, where you sort of, it's a marathon, you know, there isn't wasted time, to see if something is in stock before you go to the store. So are you giving customers that info quickly, perhaps through local inventory ads or some other means, but also think about how you as a marketing team interact with the physical stores and also your inventory teams. And related to how customers want to shop, the last stat I will sort of leave you with is searches related to store pickup are up 3x from last year. The store pickup beta was something that several PMX clients were eligible for and took advantage of. It is now fully launched for those using local inventory ads and the local storefront. So this, again, is another way to make it really easy for your customers to shop with you, and a way for you to make it a little bit easier for you to have that relationship with them. So with that, thank you so much. Again, as always, we are very closely partnered with PMX, always, but especially for this really important season. So if you have any questions, we can open it up here, or I'm happy to take questions offline, whichever you prefer.
Great. Thanks so much, Jamie and Nicole. That was wonderful. We did get in one question, but again, if you do have any that you want to send in, just use the chat feature. The question is, you talked a lot about opportunities. What do you think the biggest challenges are for marketers during the holiday season? Either of you want to take a stab at that? Yep.
Great, thanks. So one thing that we'll be watching really closely that did start to impact our clients in the season last year, and we expect to be a potentially larger story this year, is Amazon's presence in Google Shopping, or PLAs, on a very specific category basis. Amazon did have some exposure in PLAs last year. Historically, they have not participated. For those of us who have been around for a while, when Google Shopping became a paid environment, Amazon said no thank you. And so for years, we enjoyed the benefits of them not having presence there. They did start showing up last year, and then they have joined some additional categories in PLAs this year. We've seen Amazon on some apparel products, some athleisure, and we've seen them in the home category as well. So we'll be watching closely to understand how that competitive environment in PLAs changes. When you think about that environment on a mobile device, and we all know probably how easy it is to purchase from Amazon on mobile. So when you think about that click to Amazon via PLA, we feel pretty confident that Amazon will then get that conversion. So that's what we'll be watching closely in terms of what categories they're running alongside our clients in PLAs, and how much of an impact they're having on our impression share.
If I can chime in with a couple. I mean, certainly the Amazon thing I think is very top of mind for a lot of folks. From my perspective, and speaking to clients and helping them sort of ready for this holiday season, I'm hearing a lot of concern about marketing silos. So, you know, the brand and the not brand team don't talk to each other. The email and the search teams don't talk to her. God forbid the SEO and paid search teams aren't talking to each other. And so I think really sophisticated retailers are starting to pull ahead in sort of their use of remarketing and really specific personalized messaging. I think this is something we've been talking for a while. I know retailers are bracing for it, but this is sort of our Super Bowl, so I'm kind of curious to see how the game unfolds. So I'll be watching that closely. And of course, mobile, I think, is always top of mind for us. I think this October and November give people a lot of agita because we're sort of battening down the hatches, but also still trying to be agile. And I really can't stress what Nicole said. It is not too late to and how mobile performs and how your own site performs. You know, those are always top of mind too, and things that I think are still very much within your control.
Wonderful. So with that, I don't see any additional questions coming through. If you do have anything, please feel free to reach out to your PMX team, and we will get back to you. With that, thanks very much, and everyone have a wonderful